Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terri Show. I'm so happy to see you here on my YouTube channel. How you doing? Have you ever wondered, like, you look at people who are in great relationships, or people who are so happy and so healthy as they're in their 60s, or their 70s, and their 80s, and you're like, wow, they've figured out the key to life. Why does it feel like it's easy for some people to know that? And I wonder what that is. Guess what? Wonder no more. Because in this episode, I'm talking about something that is so near and dear to my heart. It is the Harvard study of adult development that was over 80 years. So this was like the longest longitudinal study ever done about physical and emotional well-being over 80 years. It started out with just men, then they included their partners and their children. And the findings are just mind-blowing, right? We literally do not have to guess anymore what makes a healthy and fulfilling life, a happy life. And you might just be surprised at what I share with you from this study, because I think a lot of us think it's certain things, especially in this very consumerist society. It's like being a billionaire. And I think you're going to be pleasantly pleased when you find out that is not what it is. Anyway, before we get into it, make sure, if you're new here, if you haven't done it yet, make sure that you subscribe and that you hit the bell icon so that you don't miss anything when I roll out new stuff every Tuesday and every Thursday. Seeing as how I do it for you, and I wouldn't want you to miss it because you're the person I make it for. Happy to see you in the comments. This is such a lovely and active and kind group, and I super appreciate you guys. You are my people. All right, let's move it on into today's episode. So what we're getting down to is the real secret to health and happiness, and why we cannot do it alone. So this Harvard study is very exciting. 80 years just based on data, right? Over this long term, it's just gold. So I'm just so into it. The fact that it is the longest and most respected study ever done on human well-being. It tracked people across their entire lives to answer one question. And that question is, what actually makes life feel good, right? And that's not. So let's be clear about what the study wasn't about. Not about what makes life look good, right? Not about what earns approval and applause. What makes it feel meaningful, connected, healthy, and happy? That is what it's about. And I want you to stay with me here, because the takeaway from this decades-long project might be the exact permission that you have been waiting for in your life. So let's first get into what they found. After 8 decades of following people from adolescence to old age, through marriages and jobs and illnesses, divorces, wins, losses, and everything in between, the conclusion was so clear it shocked the researchers. That's kind of why it's news. The quality of your relationships is the number one predictor of your mental health, your physical health, and your overall life satisfaction. I'm going to say that again. The quality of your relationships, that was the number one predictor of your mental, physical, and overall life satisfaction. Wow. So that's not money, not success, not fame, not productivity, not hustling harder, not the rise and grind of it all, not achieving some perfect version of yourself. It's relationships, connection, and belonging. And it's interesting. I've worked so hard on my own business based on this information, which I intuitively knew, people. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying. I have prioritized my relationships all of my life, quality of my relationships, which is why I have the Reclaim Society, which is my membership where we meet weekly, teaching women how to have healthy, satisfying, mutually supportive, kind, loving relationships with other women. That's what we do, because not everyone has had that experience in their life. I'll put all the links in the show notes. Don't worry, this is not like one big infomercial. But there is truth to the fact that I created this community because it was sorely lacking. And the number of women who were writing into me and saying, I don't have a place where I can honestly be myself. I feel like I'm always wearing masks. I don't have a place where I feel guided, right? So this is the place the Reclaim Society. And that's at terricole.com/reclaim. I'll put it in the show notes. Moving on. So, relationship, connection, belonging. People with strong, healthy relationships live longer. That's just what the data revealed. They recovered faster from illnesses. They were less depressed, less anxious. They were more resilient in life in general. They were happier in their careers, even when those careers weren't glamorous, because it's not about that, right? It's about connection. They experienced less loneliness, which, by the way, is now considered as dangerous to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. I mean, just what? Oh my God. Let that sink in. Holy crap. The state of your relationships is literally a health metric. And for those of us whose business is relationships, we are not surprised, but we are super thrilled that there is hardcore data to support what we have known for so friggin' long. So why do so many of you in this community, so many high achieving women, struggle with quality of relationships? Well, this certainly is where my work comes in, because knowing something intellectually and being able to live it are two totally different things, right? Especially for the women in my world. So we have been conditioned to, and not all of us, but many of us, overfunction, overgive, stay strong, quote unquote, never have needs, be the fixer, the mediator, the emotional shock absorber, so to speak, push your own feelings down, because there's always something else that's more important, right? Someone else needs something more than you do. And because we are so strong, I mean, my mantra for so long was, I'm fine. But then I needed to raise the bar. That fine sucks. I want to be great. I want to be expansive. I want to be joyful. I want to feel seen. I want to be happy, right? That's different than being fine. So this conditioning of all of these things, not having needs and overfunctioning, overgiving, this creates dysfunctional relationship patterns that sabotage the very connection that the Harvard study says that we need to thrive. So what are the patterns that keep us stuck in these less than healthy relationships? Well, people pleasing instead of being honest, avoiding conflict instead of setting boundaries, choosing self-sufficiency, right? Hyper-independence, as I like to call it, over intimacy, which is really saying choosing self-sufficiency over being vulnerable, right? Because that's something that if you're a high-functioning, if you're an HFC, high-functioning codependent, that's the hard. Being vulnerable is hard. Feeling responsible for everyone else's emotions, right? That also is like a part-time job or a full-time job. It's exhausting, which also doesn't leave much left over for us to pour into our really important VIP relationships. Staying in dynamics that drain you because you're terrified of leaving or of being too much or of the guilt that will come if you hurt this other person. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times women have said to me, I mean, there's nothing wrong with him or there's nothing wrong with them. And I'm like, there doesn't have to be anything wrong with them for you to not be in love or for you to change your mind and to course correct. Like, you can do that if you've worked on it and tried everything, you know? But again, that's a perfect example of where we're prioritizing other people's feelings instead of our own. I remember breaking up with one of my first serious boyfriends in my 20s, and it was so devastating. I did it terribly. I didn't know what I was doing. I left in the middle of the night. I had to borrow money from him to take a cab. Those of you who know me know the story. Like, it was so bad. But part of it is that I was such a high-functioning codependent that it was excruciating feeling my own pain and guilt over hurting him, and then being an empath, feeling his pain. It was just absolutely unbearable. I was losing my mind. The healthier you get, the less of a codependent you are, the more you can really understand what is my side of the street. And we can prioritize our happiness and satisfaction because it really does matter, right? All of this, these dysfunctional patterns that I was mentioning, this is why so many of my sisters in our community, successful, brilliant, capable women, quietly feel really lonely, right? Because even in relationships, you could be surrounded by people, even if you have a big family, and be surrounded by people who actually love you. Because loneliness isn't about that. right? It's about how well you're known, right? Loneliness it's not about proximity. It's about authenticity. It really is about being seen, known, and heard in your life. And if we do not create those conditions where we will be seen, known, and heard, then we won't be. And we'll be the loneliest, actually, in relationships. So I think one of the biggest lessons that from this study that people are not really talking about, it's not the number of relationships you have, right? It's not whether you're partnered or single at all. We've got a lot of evidence saying, single women are pretty happy, right? But it's not, this study is not talking about that. We're talking about the health of your relationships, specifically, which that is the skill level you bring to your relationships. What does that encompass? Your ability to communicate clearly, to regulate yourself, right? Emotional self-regulation, set healthy boundaries, set limits, repair after there's been a rupture of some kind. Stay emotionally available, right? Not shutting down. Stop repeating inherited patterns, right? That you never consciously chose. Why am I always talking about your blueprints? Because I'm trying to make visible what is usually invisible. We have these relationship blueprints, right? Repeating relationship realities. Why are we doing that? Because we have all of these paradigms in our unconscious mind, which is why so much of the work that I've done and so many of these strategies that I've originated is to help you see this so that you can consciously choose, right? Because healthy relationships, my friends, that shit is not about luck at all. I mean, you can say lucky to be born in a developed country or lucky to be born in this age, right? But relationships themselves, good ones, are not luck. It is not that whole thing we've been sold, like when the stars align, or that love is only for the lucky. That shit is not true. Healthy relationships are a practice, right? A practice that most of us were not taught how to do it, right? Because our, mothers, fathers, caregivers, whoever they might be, they didn't know how to do it, right? And then their caregivers didn't know how to do it. So we get this stilted lessons about how to be in relationships. We get these dysfunctional, they're incorrect. They are not fully there. They don't show us how to be anything other than dysfunctional for most of us, right? I just thought men were people to manipulate when I was young. That's what I learned. Men were people to manage. That's it. Never even entered my mind that I could actually be friends with a life partner until Vic, and until I'd had a lot of therapy, and until I healed my father wound. That's the truth about that, right? So we end up, when we can't figure it out, you end up thinking, what's wrong with me? Relationally, at least that's exactly how I felt. And here's the thing, something's not wrong with you. How do we expect people to magically know shit nobody taught them? That's where the problem is, right? We don't get any tools. And then it's like, well, why can't you figure out a lasting relationship? Well, I don't know. It's like speaking a language that nobody taught me. How could I possibly be fluent? So here's the key, you guys. Maybe the most important thing, and the most Harvard study aligned point, is that healing happens in connection with other people, right? We cannot do this work alone. You can't boundary yourself into a better life by yourself, right? That's not possible. You can't rewrite childhood patterns in isolation, right? You need to be mirrored. You can't cultivate healthier relationships without practicing in community. This is where we need to bring those skills into. You can't see your blind spots without witnessing and being witnessed, which is why community is so important. The women who grow the fastest in my world are not the ones who try harder. They're the ones who stop doing it alone. So for you guys, learning, and listen, I have 780, episodes of the Terri Cole Show, where if you wanted to get your PhD in relational expertise, they would probably be a great start. But if you would like to accelerate that process and not do it alone, I am putting this out to you, right? Because it's exactly why I created the membership. So the Reclaim Society, right? This is a place where you learn the emotional skills that you should have been taught from the beginning, but nobody teaches you. Practice them weekly in a supportive, totally high vibe community, because that's what we're about. Get coaching with me 4 times a month. Accountability and guidance. We also have guests come in. So we have guests, we have 2 Q&A calls a month with me. Then we have 1 guest call, and then we have 1 workshop where I really dive into teaching you something, usually about relatedness, connection, boundaries, communication, right? This is where you build actual relationships with women on a very similar growth path. You finally experience what secure connection feels like in female friendships. Because here's the thing, the Harvard study is super clear. Your relationships determine your well-being. That's it. This is literally what it said. But you can't build healthy ones without specific tools, without knowing how to do it. So the Reclaim Society gives you the tools and the community to practice them in real time. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, yep, this is exactly what I've been missing, you're probably right. Go to terricole.com/reclaim right now and join us. I've made it super affordable. And wouldn't it be great for you to accelerate your learning every single week so that you can have a happier, healthier life? Yes, it is. And for those of you who are already doing the work, right, who are my ambitious, high-achieving, impact-driven women, there is a deeper level of this that I'm also offering, which is my Flourish Mastermind. And that's where we rewire high-level relational problems, build authentic power, right? Integrate boundaries into leadership. When you think about like what you're looking for, right? If you find yourself bleeding bandwidth by being overly invested in controlling the feelings and the decisions and the outcomes of others, Flourish is for you. If you need structure, motivation, accountability to create your optimal life, career, relationships, Flourish is for you. If you feel like you're settling in your relationships personally and professionally, Flourish is for you. If you need someone who can see your true potential and help you make it your reality, Flourish is for you. We have so many success stories. Women having their highest month ever financially. Also, healing childhood wounds, because we do both. It is for entrepreneurs, for people in careers, whether you own something, whether you're a corporate CEO, and it is a psychological mastermind where you dive deep with me. You have 3 private sessions with me over the 8 months where we really get into what is getting in the way of you creating the optimal life that you want. So we integrate all of this stuff, boundaries into leadership and business and parenting and partnerships, creating lives that really are aligned, spacious, and actually yours, right? And you're working closely with a very curated, very intimate group. And it is not inexpensive, so it is not for everyone, but you can actually, I'm taking applications right now. You can go to terricole.com/flourish. We start in February. So I would love to see you and have a meeting with you because I meet with everyone who applies if you get accepted. But when you think about it, it's like the membership is the foundation, but the mastermind is definitely the architecture for your next evolution. And if you go onto the page, terricole.com/flourish, you'll see lots of people talking about their massive transformation in their lives. So anyway, this study really just, the takeaway, it just inspired me so much. And let's just quickly get to the takeaway, which is after 80 years of research, the most prestigious study on human happiness landed on something profoundly simple, which is that healthy relationships are the key to a vibrant, meaningful, joyful life. And you, my friends, deserve that. Not someday, not when you earn it, now. If you want to be a part of a community that supports that transformation, jump into the Reclaim Society, terricole.com/reclaim. And if you're already ready for the deepest, most expansive work of your life, then reach out about the mastermind and let's just hop on a call. In the meantime, either way, stop doing it alone, please. You weren't meant to. And now, Harvard science backs me up on that. So I hope that this inspired the crap out of you the way that it inspired me. I hope you guys have the most amazing week. And as always, take care of you.